Hello, everyone. Yesterday we talked about Paul's last words to Timothy, specifically where he said, preach the word. Well, also today in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse number 1, he said, in the last days. Now the question is, when are the last days? When did they start? Some people and scholars believe the last days actually started after Jesus ascended to heaven. And Peter tells us that a day of the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. In other words, he's basically saying that there's no timetable with God, whereas we always measure everything by time. But if it's true that the last days started at Jesus' ascension, then we truly are living today, 2,000 years later, in the last days. In verses number 2 through 5 that Paul is talking to Timothy in chapter number 3, we have 18 characteristics of how people will be acting in the last days. They're basically warnings to us. You know, we have a snowstorm. We don't get a lot of snow here in eastern North Carolina. This is actually the second one that we've gotten this year, which is really quite unusual for us. But they warned us. Even last week, they warned us that this snow was coming. And so people went out and they stocked up and went to the grocery store and got bread and so on. But warnings are very, very important. And thank God for the Weather Channel. And sometimes they hit it and sometimes they don't. But I can tell you that God has warned us of things that will take place in the last day. And even though they may be delayed, in fact, when you go back to Peter's writing, after he talks about a day of the Lord as 1,000 years, 1,000 years as a day, he talks about the delay, why there's a delay. And he says the patience of the Lord is salvation. In other words, he's delayed his coming so other people can get their heart right. Well, we go back to Paul's writings there in verses 2 through 5, and he gives us 18 characteristics of what's going to take place in the last days. But the last one, in verse number 5, he says this, having a form of godliness but denying its power. You know, all over this world there are churches and that represent the house of God. In fact, that's the symbol of the house of God, where people gather together to meet God. And we know that God is always with us. He's as close as the mention of his name. But these churches symbolize that God is there. But unfortunately, so many churches today, they don't have the message of the Word of God as we preached yesterday. They're not walking the walk and talking the talk. And I encourage you, my friends, make sure the church that you're going to is one that has godliness in it, not just a form. Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful day. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.